The monitor beeps echo through the ER as I finish another grueling 12-hour night shift. My scrubs are stained with a patient's blood, my feet ache in protest, but I've saved 3 lives tonight. I'm Alicia, 32, head nurse of the emergency department, and for the past 5 years, I've been what most would call successful, respected position at a prestigious hospital, a modest apartment 20 minutes from work, and enough income to support not just myself, but my entire family. Yet success doesn't equate to happiness, especially when those you help don't value your sacrifices. Dr. Torres says you're up for the Henderson Award this year, my colleague mentions as I gather my things. That would make you the youngest recipient in the hospital's history. I force a tired smile while checking my watch. It's Friday morning, which means another 2-hour drive to visit my parents after working all night. Another weekend of pretending everything is fine. Growing up, I watched my parents shower my younger sister Brianna with endless attention and praise. She was their precious baby, their perfect little princess who could do no wrong. While I studied through the night to earn a nursing scholarship, Brianna floated through community college on charm and our parents' constant financial bailouts before dropping out entirely. You need to understand, Alicia, my mother would say whenever I questioned the disparity, your sister needs more support. You've always been so independent. Independent. Their code word for useful but overlooked. Every other weekend for 5 years, I've maintained the same exhausting routine, finish my night shift on Friday morning, pick up thoughtful gifts despite my fatigue, then drive 2 hours to their suburban home with its mortgage that I help pay. Sometimes I wonder why I keep doing it, but then I remember the loan, that cursed $50,000 wedding loan that destroyed my future and changed everything. I got it. I screamed, clutching the acceptance letter from the prestigious medical school. Full scholarship to Johns Hopkins Medical School. My father looked up briefly from his newspaper. That's nice, honey. Before my excitement could fully bloom, Brianna burst through the door wearing an enormous diamond ring. Derek proposed. We're getting married. My parents' reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Mother screamed in delight, father abandoned his paper to hug Brianna, both of them crying tears of joy. My acceptance letter lay forgotten on the kitchen counter. 2 weeks later, they called a family meeting. Johns Hopkins is asking for a $20,000 commitment fee by next month, I explained, sitting at our kitchen table. It's for housing and registration. The scholarship covers tuition, but... Actually, honey, my mother interrupted, her face tightening, we need to discuss something important. Brianna wants a proper wedding, and with her credit history, the banks won't approve her for a loan. My stomach dropped. What does that have to do with my medical school? We're taking out a $50,000 loan for her wedding, my father said, avoiding my eyes. We won't have anything for your commitment fee. The blood drained from my face. But this is my future. I've worked for this since I was 16. Don't be selfish, Alicia, mother snapped. This is about your sister's special day. You can always go to nursing school locally. It's practically the same thing. My father nodded along, his face a mask of passive agreement. Doctors are under too much stress anyway. You'll be happier as a nurse. That night, I cried until my eyes swelled shut, watching my dream of becoming a doctor evaporate. When I look back now, I realize those bi-weekly visits weren't just about being a good daughter. They were about trying to fix what Brianna broke, sending $2,000 every month to cover their mortgage, utilities, and that cursed wedding loan for a marriage that wouldn't last. Dinner that night was surreal. My body ached from my night shift as I watched Helen bustle around the kitchen, preparing Brianna's favorite dishes while my carefully selected herbal tea set sat forgotten on the side table. Raymond couldn't stop grinning as he watched his grandchildren, my niece and nephew, apparently, racing toy cars across the living room floor. They were adorable kids, about 6 and 4 years old, with Brianna's eyes and dimples, but my heart clenched knowing I'd only seen them in occasional social media posts until now. So, I finally broke the uncomfortable silence as we gathered around the dining table. What made you decide to visit after all this time, Brianna? She shrugged, examining her French manicured nails before taking another bite of Mother's special lasagna. Just thought the kids should know their grandparents better, she said casually, as if she hadn't blocked me on every social platform for 5 years. I gripped my water glass tightly, fighting to keep my voice professional, the same tone I use with difficult patients. Does this mean you're finally going to help pay back the loan they took out for your wedding? The one that cost me my medical career? The temperature in the room plummeted. Brianna's face flushed with indignation, her designer earrings swinging as she prepared to retort, but Helen intervened before she could speak. Alicia. This isn't appropriate dinner conversation, she scolded, her voice sharp. Can't we just enjoy having the family together again? Your sister needs emotional healing right now. My knuckles whitened around the glass. The family together again? What about the past 5 years when I was the only one keeping them financially afloat? Every month, without fail, I'd been transferring $2,000 to cover their mortgage, utilities, and groceries because they couldn't manage after paying Brianna's extravagant wedding loan. But sure, let's not discuss money when it's inconvenient. The rest of the weekend I might as well have been invisible. Helen and Raymond spent every moment fawning over Brianna and the children, while I retreated to my nursing journals in the corner. Before leaving on Sunday, I cornered Brianna alone in the kitchen, the smell of her expensive perfume overwhelming in the small space. How long are you planning to stay? I asked, measuring my words carefully. Oh, just visiting, she said, waving her hand dismissively, diamond bracelet glinting under the kitchen lights. Derek's waiting at home. We're just taking a little break from each other. Derek, her wealthy financial analyst husband who supposedly controlled their finances so tightly that she couldn't possibly help repay the $50,000 loan that destroyed my medical career. The same loan our parents were still paying while treating Brianna like a returning war hero. The next 2 months vanished in a blur of emergency cases and hospital shifts. I was assigned to lead a critical mass casualty response team after a highway pileup, earning recognition from the hospital board but leaving no time for family visits. My calls with Helen grew increasingly short. She claimed to be busy too, though I'd soon discover what that truly meant. Finally, after successfully coordinating the emergency response team and receiving a Hospital Excellence Award and bonus, I decided to surprise my parents with an extended weekend visit. Despite my exhaustion, I splurged on thoughtful gifts, a professional-grade espresso machine for Helen and a premium carpentry set for Raymond. After 2 months away from their drama, the award in my trunk and recognition in the local medical journal had me feeling confident enough to face them again. The moment I stepped through their front door that Friday evening, my nursing instincts sensed something was terribly wrong. Brianna's children's toys littered the entryway floor, and Helen's face drained of color when she saw me standing there. Alicia. What? What are you doing here? The question struck me like a physical blow. I came to visit, like I have for the past 5 years while paying your mortgage, I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Oh, Helen mumbled, fidgeting with her sleeve. We weren't expecting you today. Brianna sauntered from the kitchen, a self-satisfied smirk on her face. When I presented the gifts to our parents, she rolled her eyes dramatically. Always trying to buy their affection, aren't you, Alicia? I ignored her barb and asked pointedly, when are you and the kids heading back to your luxury condo, Brianna? Her smirk widened as she tossed her hair. We're not. Derek and I are divorced. He was emotionally abusive, she air-quoted. This is home now. The espresso machine nearly slipped from my grip. Divorced. The supposedly perfect marriage that had justified destroying my medical career was over, and she was moving back with our parents, who were still paying off her $50,000 wedding loan? But the worst revelation was yet to come. After an awkward dinner, I headed toward my bedroom, only to be stopped by Helen's nervous voice. Honey, about your room. We gave it to Brianna. She needed her space, and we converted her old room into a playroom for the kids. The world tilted beneath my feet. You promised, I whispered, my heart pounding. You explicitly promised you wouldn't touch my room. Don't be so dramatic, Raymond interrupted, his tone dismissive. We cleared out the storage closet for you, put a cot in there and everything. A closet. They had moved me to a closet to accommodate the daughter who had abandoned them for 5 years. The daughter whose wedding debt they were still paying. The daughter I had been supporting financially through them. A closet. My voice emerged with the eerie calm I reserve for code blue emergencies. You're moving me to a closet after I've been sending you $2,000 every month for 5 years? After I gave up medical school for her wedding? I turned to my sister. What about work, Brianna? How are you planning to contribute to the household expenses? Brianna lounged across what used to be my queen-size bed, examining her freshly manicured nails. I don't need to work. Derek's paying substantial alimony, enough for me and the kids to heal from our trauma. And what about Helen and Raymond's expenses? I pressed, my nursing assessment skills cataloging their tired faces and worn clothes. The utilities for 3 more people? The groceries. The loan they're still paying for your wedding? Mom and Dad don't mind covering that, Brianna shrugged carelessly. Our parents nodded in synchronized agreement, reminding me of patience and shock. Bile rose in my throat watching this display. They don't mind because I've been sending them $2,000 every month, I said through clenched teeth. Money that's apparently been supporting you all along. Raymond's face darkened. That's enough, Alicia. You're being selfish and arrogant. You have a good job. The closet is perfectly adequate for your occasional visits. Selfish? I laughed with the bitter irony of it. I'm selfish for sending you my hard-earned nursing salary while I jabbed a finger toward Brianna, disappeared for 5 years after sticking you with her wedding loan that cost me my medical career. I have rights to live here too, I insisted, my voice rising with emotion. We're tired of your ungrateful attitude, Helen snapped. If you can't accept this situation, maybe you should leave. Ungrateful? The word cut deeper than any surgical instrument. After everything I've sacrificed? Brianna's smug smile was the final betrayal. I looked at their faces, Raymond's stern disapproval, Helen's dismissive anger, Brianna's entitled satisfaction, and something inside me shattered completely. Without another word, I turned and walked out, not just from the room or house, but from their toxicity forever. They didn't even try to stop me. Back in my apartment, I kicked off my shoes and pulled up my banking app. The monthly $2,000 transfer to my parents' account stared back at me, scheduled to process in just 3 days. My finger hovered over the cancel button as emotions crashed through me. All these years, I'd been the responsible one, the dedicated daughter, the one who helped without complaint. And what had it earned me? A closet to sleep in and a family that preferred the daughter who'd abandoned them at the first opportunity. I took a deep breath and thought about all the times I'd silenced myself, all the nights I'd worked double shifts to send money while Brianna showcased her designer purchases on social media, all the holidays my parents had dismissed my medical achievements while celebrating Brianna's smallest accomplishments. The choice crystallized with perfect clarity. With one decisive tap, I canceled the recurring transfer. Let Brianna help them now with her substantial alimony. Let her deal with the utility bills and grocery shopping. Let her face the reality of the debt she dumped on our parents. I was done being the family's financial life support. A month passed in deafening silence, no calls from Helen about Brianna's latest designer purchases, no messages about my niece and nephew's adorable antics. Nothing. I buried myself in hospital shifts, volunteering for extra trauma rotations to quiet the hollow ache in my chest. But I couldn't completely disconnect from them. Social media became my clinical window into their world, revealing exactly where I stood in their family hierarchy. Helen's Facebook page overflowed with carefully staged photos, my precious daughter and her beautiful angels, Brianna and Helen decorating cupcakes, Brianna and Raymond at the playground with the children, picture-perfect family moments that deliberately excluded any trace of me. Each smiling image twisted like a scalpel between my ribs, but I forced myself to look. I needed the visual evidence to reinforce why I'd finally established boundaries. Then came the call I'd been clinically anticipating, precisely when the monthly mortgage payment would have been due. "Where's the money?" Helen demanded without even a perfunctory greeting. Her voice carried the sharp edge of entitlement I'd heard directed at service workers. I maintained my professional tone, the same one I used to deliver difficult news to patients' families. I canceled the transfers. The silence stretched so long I checked my phone to see if the call had dropped. "You what?" "I canceled them," I repeated, my voice calm but firm. "I'm not financially supporting this situation anymore." "You can't do that." Helen's voice escalated to a panicked shriek. "We need that money. The mortgage is due. How could you be so selfish and ungrateful?" A bitter laugh escaped me at the familiar accusation. "Selfish? I've been sending you $2,000 every month for 5 years while Brianna lived in her luxury condo posting pictures of her spa weekends. Let her share some of that alimony she brags about. She has children to support." Helen's voice cracked with indignation. "You ungrateful little, after everything we've sacrificed for you." Sacrificed for me? Now I laughed openly. Like moving me into a storage closet? Or redirecting my medical school funds to Brianna's wedding? Or perhaps you mean ignoring my hospital award unless you needed my next payment? "You're just jealous of your sister," Helen spat venomously. "You've always resented that we love her more. You're being cruel and—" I ended the call, my hands surprisingly steady. For the first time since surrendering my medical school acceptance letter, I felt in control of my life. The messages began flooding in immediately. "Brianna's came first, you jealous bitch. You've always hated me because mom and dad adore me more than their boring nurse daughter. You're just bitter and petty because Derek left me." I deleted it without hesitation. Raymond's message arrived minutes later. "Your mother is having anxiety attacks because of you. I hope your cruelty brings you satisfaction." Satisfaction wasn't the emotion I felt. Exhaustion, perhaps. Bone-deep exhaustion from being the family's financial life support. Tired of watching them prioritize Brianna no matter how many times she devastated their finances. More messages bombarded my phone, each increasingly desperate or hostile. I read them all clinically but responded to none. Let them experience being ignored and taken for granted for once. A week later, my phone displayed Helen's number again. "Hello, darling," she cooed, her voice dripping artificial sweetness. "We miss you terribly. Won't you please come visit this weekend?" "In the storage closet?" I asked, the irony evident in my tone. "We could make up the living room sofa," she offered with transparent insincerity. "No, thank you. Please, Alicia." Her voice transformed, adopting the pleading quality I recognized from countless manipulations. "We're drowning without your help. The utility company is threatening to cut service, and the mortgage." "That's not my responsibility anymore," I interrupted firmly. "You made your choice when you put me in a closet while giving Brianna my bedroom." Again. Helen's theatrical sobs began, the same performance I'd witnessed whenever she needed to control a situation. "You're being so heartless, Alicia. We're your parents. We need help with the bills, the mortgage payments." "The mortgage payments that include Brianna's wedding loan," I reminded her. "The $50,000 wedding for a marriage that lasted barely 5 years. Why not ask her for financial help? She has children to support." Helen's voice ascended to its familiar shrill pitch. "With Derek's substantial alimony," I countered. "The alimony she flaunts on social media while shopping at Nordstrom but apparently can't share with you. Face reality, Helen, she's using you again, exactly as she always has." "That's not true. She's changed." I shook my head, though she couldn't see me. "No, she hasn't. But I certainly have." I ended the call and blocked their numbers permanently. I was finished with the emotional manipulation, finished with the guilt trips, finished being the family's financial safety net while being treated as an inconvenient houseguest. That night, I opened my laptop and began researching housing options near the hospital. The $2,000 I'd been sending my parents each month would accumulate into a substantial down payment surprisingly quickly. It was time to invest in my own healing instead of enabling their dysfunction. A week later, Brianna somehow reached me using an unfamiliar number. "You're destroying our parents, you know that?" she hissed, her voice dripping with theatrical accusation. "Dad had to take another security job, and they're barely affording groceries now." "Fascinating how that wasn't your concern when you saddled them with your $50,000 wedding loan," I replied, maintaining my professional composure. "Or when you vanished completely for 5 years while posting vacation photos from Cancun." "That was completely different," she practically shrieked. "I was dealing with Derek's emotional abuse and now you have substantial alimony," I interrupted clinically. "Use some of it to help the parents who sacrificed my education for your wedding. That money is for me and my children's healing process. Just like their retirement savings were for you and your children? Just like their house. Just like my bedroom?" The steel in my voice surprised even me after years of diplomatic silence. "You know what's really destroying them, Brianna? You are. You always have been. You just never had to witness the consequences because I was always there with my nursing salary cleaning up your messes. You're just jealous because they've always loved me more," she sneered. I laughed, a genuine, liberating laugh. "You're absolutely right. They do love you more. They always have, and they always will choose you. But love doesn't pay the mortgage or keep the electricity on, does it? That was my responsibility, and I've officially resigned." I ended the call and blocked her new number without hesitation. Let her learn financial responsibility for once in her privileged life. Let her discover what being an actual adult entails. My realtor called that afternoon with unexpected news. She'd found a perfect medical staff housing option within walking distance of the hospital, a top-floor unit with hospital employee pricing. As I scheduled a viewing for that evening, I realized the persistent weight on my chest had finally lifted. The burden of my family's endless expectations, their constant financial demands, their blatant favoritism, all of it was falling away with each step toward independence. I was no longer the responsible daughter obligated to fix everyone's problems. No longer the second-best child forced to accept whatever meager scraps of acknowledgement they occasionally tossed my way. I was simply Alicia, emergency department nursing supervisor, and for the first time since surrendering my medical school dreams, that identity felt completely sufficient. News travels rapidly through family networks, even when direct communication has ceased. My childhood friend Jasmine called me one evening, her voice tentative. I thought you should know, she said carefully. Helen's telling everyone that you abandoned them, that you're punishing them for helping Brianna escape her abusive marriage. I laughed without humor. Is that their new narrative? Helping Brianna? Raymond's working 2 security jobs now, Jasmine continued. Helen took extra office cleaning shifts. Meanwhile, Brianna's still unemployed, posting designer purchases on social media and taking long lunches with her friends. And the children, Jasmine sighed heavily. Your parents are essentially raising them while Brianna attends essential self-care retreats. She claims she's processing her trauma or something equally vague. Same Brianna, different justification, I observed, watching the hospital lights from my apartment window. You know what's truly ironic? For 5 consecutive years, I transferred $2,000 monthly to their account. I visited faithfully after exhausting night shifts. I was present for every holiday, every birthday, every family crisis. But the moment Brianna reappeared, I became completely disposable. They literally relegated me to a storage closet, Jasmine. I know, she acknowledged softly. It's completely unjustifiable. Yes, it is. But their dysfunction isn't my responsibility anymore. After ending the call, I visited the medical housing unit again. It was perfect, 2 bedrooms with natural light, a renovated kitchen, and most importantly, it represented my independence. No family manipulation, no guilt trips, no being exiled to a closet to accommodate someone else's entitlement. I submitted my offer that evening. The following day, Helen somehow reached me using Raymond's workplace phone. Your father's back is deteriorating from all these extra shifts, she began, skipping any greeting. We desperately need your financial support again, Alicia. What about Brianna's contribution? I asked pointedly. Is she still frequenting boutiques while you 2 work yourselves into physical collapse? Helen's telling silence provided my answer. You should know, I continued calmly, I've just made an offer on a hospital staff condominium. The down payment comes directly from the funds I previously sent to you, money you redirected to support Brianna and her children while treating me like an unwelcome intruder in my own family home. How can you be so cruel? Helen's voice cracked dramatically. We're your parents. Yes, you are. And Brianna is my sister. But I've permanently resigned from being the family's financial institution while you treat me as worthless. Of course you're not worthless. Helen protested unconvincingly. We love you. No, Helen. You love what my nursing salary could provide for Brianna. There's a fundamental difference. I could hear her beginning another performance of tears, but this time I felt nothing. Years of emergency room tragedies had immunized me against emotional manipulation. I need to go, I stated firmly. I have a meeting with my real estate agent about my new home. Please, Alicia, she pleaded desperately. We can compromise. We could set up a proper air mattress in the living room when you visit. Goodbye, Helen. As I ended the call, my phone displayed a message from my agent. The sellers had accepted my offer. I was becoming a homeowner. I surveyed my apartment, contemplating all the weekends I hadn't enjoyed here because I was at my parents' house supporting their enabling of Brianna, all the savings I hadn't accumulated because I was funding their poor choices, all the personal relationships I'd neglected to remain their reliable contingency plan. Time brings clarity like nothing else. From my hospital staff condo's rooftop garden, I watched the city lights shimmer against the twilight sky, a view impossible had I continued sending my nursing salary to fund Brianna's endless needs. My mortgage payments feel insignificant compared to the financial burden I carried for years, and I'm finally investing in my own retirement instead of paying for my sister's extravagant past. Jasmine occasionally updates me on family developments, though I never inquire. Brianna remains entrenched with our parents, squandering her alimony on designer handbags and wellness retreats while barely acknowledging her children's educational needs. Helen and Raymond work multiple jobs, their exhausted expressions betraying the strain of supporting 3 additional dependents well into what should have been their retirement years. They finally eliminated Brianna's wedding loan, the financial catalyst for my sacrificed medical career. The irony that they've finished paying for a marriage that collapsed isn't lost on me. Jasmine mentioned that Helen told relatives they could finally breathe financially, only to immediately lament how their ungrateful older daughter abandoned them when they needed her most. Helen was circulating photos of Brianna and the children at Sunday dinner, Jasmine reported during our last coffee meeting. She kept announcing how at least one daughter still understands family commitment. I simply smiled. How perfectly predictable. Don't you want to share news about your promotion and new home? Jasmine asked gently. Show them you're thriving? No, I responded decisively. They've forfeited access to my life. They don't deserve to witness what I've built after they relegated me to a storage closet. I've shared my new address with absolutely no one connected to my family, and intend to maintain this boundary permanently. I can anticipate their reactions precisely: Helen's thinly veiled criticism implying I've become elitist, Raymond's disappointed headshaking, Brianna's envious remarks about my showing off. They would inevitably transform my achievement into another manipulation, insisting I should redirect my resources to support family rather than secure my independence. Their opinions no longer matter. Let them gossip. Let them complain about their heartless nurse daughter who refused to continue financing their enabling. Let them work those extra shifts while Brianna lounges in my former bedroom, perfecting her performance as the victimized divorced mother. Sometimes, sipping Cabernet on my rooftop garden watching the hospital helicopter land, I reflect on that storage closet they offered me. It was their final, unintentional gift, the catalyst I needed to break free from accepting emotional scraps while giving them everything I'd earned.